And can you tell them again?
Yeah.
What are we doing today?
Everything adult and price.
You want to see what we're going to paint today? What is this? Today we're going to be painting a turtle. Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Fave, and what's your name?
Miles.
And today we are going to be painting a sea turtle. So let's jump in and get started. Okay, so a long time ago, a few years back, I did a painting of a sea turtle. Lots of people loved it, and I've been feeling the itch to paint a little bit more sea creatures, and I wanted to redo that sea turtle how I would do it now since it's been a few years. I have different supplies, different approaches, and I just wanted to kind of redo it and see how it goes. So today I'm painting on today I'm painting on Arches cold press watercolor paper. I have Shinhan paints in my palette, which I love. I have a pencil and a kneaded eraser to sketch out the turtle first, and then we will see what brushes I end up using. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is sketch out this turtle. I can't remember if I think I freehanded it last time, but we're gonna give it a go. So first thing, I'm just gonna lightly sketch out some shapes. So kind of, this turtle has a bit more of like an oval head, like so. And I like to do it a couple times just to kind of get the shape that I want. And then it kind of goes back, down, and then we have the shell. So I just wanna sketch out the shapes I see. Now I do have a reference photo that I pulled off Pinterest that I will add to the description. Stuff like this, I would definitely recommend, grabbing some sort of reference photo because, I mean, unless you're an expert on animals and sea turtles, you're not gonna know every little bit of what it would look like. So I always find a reference photo very, very helpful. So, okay, so things I look for in the photo, I can see that the head and the back of the turtle's shell line up. So this is actually a little bit less, needs to be a bit more curved. So it kind of reaches that same height with my pencil. Okay. So those are things I look for when I'm sketching, in like one shape in proportion to the next. How close is it? How far are they the same kind of level? Are they, how much bigger would you say one shape is than the other? That's just kind of how my brain works with this. Then I see the neck kind of comes back here, right to where it reaches this curve. Okay. Then I'm going to start with the fin because that will help me place other areas. Okay, so we have this big fin that kind of comes down. And I'm doing this on a fairly large piece of paper. I think it's a 9x12. I just didn't want to cut it. Comes down to a point here. It's a little flatter on the side with some kind of bumps. Now, I'm not going to be making this super realistic. I'm going to try my best to make it detailed, but not realistic. I'm not going to try and get every little curve exactly the way I see it in the photo. Just kind of want the gist of the painting. Okay, and then I feel like his head needs to be a bit bigger, but I'll work on that after. Okay, then I'm going to do the back fin here, which is further away, so it's smaller. Comes out like this. Down, curves up, get a little lumpiness there, and then it kind of comes right back. And now I can kind of figure out where the body goes. Okay, so the bottom of the turtle kind of connects down here. And then it's gonna meet the shell back here, like so. And then we have another, and I think it's a little bit of the fin back here, so I'm just gonna do a little bit like that. And you don't really see the rest of the turtle. Okay, so now looking at the head, I just want to define it a little bit more. I'm going to use this oval shape. So his head kind of comes up straight here and then curves back. And it's kind of like a nose, or his mouth is right here. That comes down. Mark out where the eye is. Kind of like this almond shape. And this comes back in. Okay. So I have kind of my shape that I want for my turtle. I'm going to start erasing lines and then defining some other lines that I want to keep. So I have my kneaded eraser. I'm going to erase all these little lines that I don't need. Then we can focus on all those lines that are detailed on the shell and the flipper and all that fun stuff. Okay, so here is our turtle. All right. Now, I'm going to focus on the shell to start. So the neck comes down here and the shell kind of comes up behind, curves down over the fin like this. Okay. So then it has all these little separated lines. So I'm just going to do another kind of line like this. And then it has these separate little parts, these sections. Now again, it does not have to be perfect, does not have to be completely accurate. I don't want to stress myself out over that. And these edges are a little bit scalloped over here. Like that. Okay. And then the bigger part here, there's a bit more of a bigger section. That. And then one over here. I feel like there should be one on the back, but I don't see it in the photo. That's okay. All right, and then the other big section here is kind of like the stomach portion, where you have these big shapes like that. And then this, the edge of the shell kind of also comes down into the stomach where those lines kind of meet. All right, so we have kind of the gist of the turtle. There's lots of spots on the head and the neck. Now, if you want to do it now, you can. There's like a circle over here. And it kind of comes down. Just all these little patterns. But it's totally up to you if you want to just kind of wing it. I kind of feel like that's what I want to do. I just want to draw them in with my paintbrush after. And I want to do a little bit of wet on wet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my kneaded eraser and I'm just going to roll it over my painting so I can lighten up those lines. And the last time I did a turtle, I kind of did it like blue and greens and stuff like that, really fun colors. But I do want to do a bit of the background. I want to have like a blue background. So I think I want this to be like a complementary, like brown, yellow ochres and all that stuff, and then have a bluish turquoise background to represent the water, and then we'll see. So I'm going to take my size 10 to start. And I think I want to go section by section so I can leave some white space in between these sections. All right, so I'm going to grab some yellow ochre and I'm going to just start with this section here. Like that. Actually, I might get my size 8 for this instead. So I can work a little bit smaller. Okay, so it's going to be nice and wet. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some burnt sienna and a little bit of indigo to make like a darker brown. Put more on the burnt sienna. And they have these really cool patterns, like kind of like explosive patterns on each little area that I want to mimic. So using the wet on wet technique is perfect for this because you can just kind of tap and it does that little firework thing. But you can also kind of guide it and draw it out so it goes different places. You know what I mean? So there's once the base color. It's going to be yellow ochre. And again, like I said, I'm going to leave a little bit of white space in between each section. And the amount of water that you want to use for this wet on wet is not so much where it's going to pool, but wet enough that it's all like evenly wet. And also when you're adding color, you don't want a ton of water on your brush to create a puddle either. You can just kind of let it explode. I feel like it needs a little bit more darkness, so I'm going to add just a bit of indigo to make it a darker brown. So okay, again, yellow ochre. Maybe I'll do 2 sections at a time that are smaller. Grab my brown. Just tap it so they explode. And then you just keep going. So I'm going to continue this part. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit so you don't have to sit and watch in slow motion just for the rest of this part, and then I'll show you how to do the top. Okay, so now that we've done that part, we can do the top sections. So same kind of deal, but because we're doing a larger area, we just need to cover more. So again, I'm leaving the white space in between the sections, using a bit more water just so I can cover the whole area and it doesn't dry before I cover it. You want it all to be evenly wet. And then you can start dropping in your color. Now the pattern on the actual reference photo is kind of like this explosive, like firework pattern like this. Kind of lines all coming into one area, which really looks cool. I'm just trying to mimic that a little bit. Having some dark brown mixed with some burnt sienna. Kind of going around the edges a bit. Oh, and of course, I have put my hand into this wet part. It's fine. We'll fix it. I'm going to show you how to fix something really quickly. Just a second. Okay. If you have a mistake like this, watch. And it's still wet. Don't let it dry. Get clean water. Try your best to scrub it a little bit gently with your brush. Grab your paper towel and dab. I've also heard those magic erasers work well. But this is typically what I usually do, and then I'll just paint over it. It won't be that big of a deal. Okay. Here we go. So, all right. Then the next section. Again, leaving that white space and not putting my hand into the paint. So I'm just going to finish up this shell, speed it up a little bit, and then we can move on to the rest of the turtle. Okay, so now that that part's done, we can work on another area. So let's let this dry really quickly and then we will move on. Okay, so now let's start working on the head. So same kind of thing. I'm going to start with some yellow ochre. And I'm going to kind of just block out little areas, leaving that white space again. So the lip is kind of all one color-ish. Well, it has a bit of brown, so I'm just gonna do this shape here. Wrap some brown. That. And then here, there's like a circle. And then a darker brown spot up here. And I'm just kind of creating these shapes. Just taking a look at the reference photo. They have like little dots and patterns. The eye. Just kind of carve out the eye there and then do little patterns and stuff around. Lines. Again, it does not have to be completely accurate to the photo. There's these bigger parts here. And really, you're just playing around with pattern on the face and the head. So down below, it's a little bit lighter, so I might use some yellow ochre for that. I'm going to do a bit more of these kind of like circular bits on the head. That. I'm going to get a little bit smaller. And then, like I said, right under the mouth, it's a little bit lighter. We'll do the yellow ochre. We'll do some shapes with just yellow ochre. And then it's mostly light underneath. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to take this yellow ochre and I'm going to apply it all over here, because then those little lines that are white here turn to be like a darker brown there. So we can actually just fill in this part with yellow ochre and then do the tiny little line details after. So I'm going to fill them in here, actually up to the chest here. All be yellow ochre. here. So, and then it gets a little bit darker, so I'm just gonna add some color back here where there's some shadows. A little bit of the darker brown. We can do some line work on it after. I just want to kind of place in the shadows. Okay. And then I can actually do the bottom down here. Same kind of thing, following the shell. That. And I'll probably just make this yellow ochre, and then we can do detail on it after. Grab a little bit of brown just to kind of tap it in there so it's not so flat looking. Like so. Okay. Now I want this to dry before we continue. Okay, so now that that's dry, let's do the fins. So I'm actually going to start off with yellow ochre over the whole thing, I think. So I actually could have done that originally, but I didn't. Good. And then just add a little bit of shadow there and there. And then do the same thing with this fin. And then we gotta let that dry. So while we're letting that dry, let's do the eye quickly. So we're gonna make a nice dark color, just using some indigo mixed with a little bit of brown. And just filling in this eye. Leave a little bit of white space if you want. Like that. And then let's let it dry. Actually, while we're letting it dry, I'm going to start doing some line work on this part that's already dry. So I'm going to take a liner brush like this. I'm going to create my dark brown. Okay, and I'm just going to start doing these shapes of these little kind of lines that are going to be little sections. Again, I'm not following the reference photo to a T. I just kind of want to make it look like it's textured here. A little bit darker over here, just because there's a bit more shadow back here, so you don't really see a lot of the definition. What I'm just going to do is kind of just create these lines and then just cross them so they look like little tiny sections. And then the same kind of thing under here. Just kind of like these rounded little shapes. And they just get smaller and smaller, so I'm not too worried about detail. I'm also trying not to make this tutorial like a million hours long. This is a little bit of a shortcut. And my son is yelling upstairs. Why not? I'm gonna do little squigglies in between those lines. I feel like someone else would probably take better time with this, but I don't have patience for stuff like this. Not a good quality of mine, but so I'm just gonna speed this part up a bit, and then we'll move on to the fins. Okay, now that that's done, we can do the fins. So same kind of thing, except that there's going to be darker brown sections up here and then darker brown down here. So I'm going to grab my size 8, get my darker brown. They're almost like these little diamond shapes. So leaving white space in between the shapes. Then it gets lighter as it comes down here. I'm gonna wash off my brush, just get yellow ochre, I think. And then they get like smaller. You can even just do like little dots. And then they start to get darker down here, a little bit bigger. Oops. And I'm just kind of creating a little bit of texture here, not really doing too much detail. Okay, so I want to make it a little bit darker around the edge here. That. And at the bottom here. Dropping in that color. And then this is kind of like a lighter brown. All right. Okay, now this one. Same kind of thing. Again, look at your reference photo. See what shapes kind of are going where. So they're all dark around this area. And I'm just going to speed up this as well, just because This is gonna take a while. All right. Okay, and there we go. So there is the turtle. Then I just want to quickly kind of do some sort of background. So I'm going to take my larger brush. I'm going to grab a size 12. And I'm going to grab this, like, I forget what color blue this is called. Oh, blue pale or something. It's a bit turquoisey. And I'm just going to use a lot of water. And I don't want there to really be an edge where I'm just going to kind of make it really loose and watery. Kind of like it's just like splashing out at you. I'm using quite a bit of water. And I used a bunch of color to start. Now I'm just using the color that I laid down on the paper to just move it around just so you can see where we're putting the water. And if you want to kind of create a border where it's just like a splash, you can just start moving out the edges. Or if you wanted it to be, you know, right to the edge of the paper or have a nice border, you could always tape it down before you do this part. Create that border with some painter's tape. Turn this around. Okay, so I'm going to just wet this all up, make sure it's all wet, and then I'm going to start dropping in more of this blue to make it look fun. You'll see. So just wet up the paper. The biggest thing to remember when doing this is just try and make it all evenly wet. So I'm trying as quickly as I can to lay down my blue wash. Doesn't have to be like dark blue or anything. I'm just trying to get the color down just so I can see where I'm putting it. You don't want too many puddles anywhere. You want it kind of like a nice even amount of water on your paper. And then once you start dropping in that color, it will be pretty awesome. And there we go. There is our sea turtle. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments below, how it turned out. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
You're so good.